Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Inobong Tomelio and today we are recreating Peyton Sawyer's art. So I've been a fan of One Tree Hill since it was released in 2003. One of my favourite parts of the show was Peyton Sawyer's art. I loved it because it became a vehicle for creating a commentary and bringing out the subtext of each episode. And as a teenager, I always wanted to be able to draw that kind of art, and so that's what we're doing today. The first piece I decided to do is the iconic People Always Leave. But before I go into the art, fun fact, the artist responsible for Peyton's art is actually an illustrator and storyboard artist called Helen Ward. Hilary Burton did not draw Peyton's art, she was hired as an actress and not an artist. Helen Ward was the artist, and what she would do is she would create two versions of each piece. The first, she would create a finished version and a light outline that Hilary, as Peyton, would then draw over in the episode to make it look like she was doing the artwork for real. But as I was saying, the first piece I chose to draw is People Always Leave. So this is created in episode 2 of season 1, and it's an episode that centres around the anniversary of Peyton's mum's death. So Peyton's mum died in a car accident. She was running late to pick Peyton up from school and ran a red light and was hit and unfortunately did not make it. So in this episode, Peyton is in her emotions and she spends the episode purposefully running red lights, I guess, testing fate and testing her luck. But of course she does not end up in a car accident. She does end up in several, at least one car accident throughout the course of the series, but this time she does not. And this is the piece that she ends up drawing as a commentary to her feelings. And one of the reasons that this piece is probably one of Peyton's most well-known pieces is also that this phrase carries through, I think, all 9 seasons of the show, as characters are disappointed in other characters and as relationships end and people move away. This becomes a phrase that underlines the whole series. Because this piece has such strong ties to the storyline and to Peyton's art, I didn't think it made sense for me to recreate Peyton's version of this piece. So I decided to use it as inspiration to springboard my own idea of what People Always Leave means to me. Because I apparently hate my life, I decided that I wanted to start off my drawing day by drawing hands. Hands are notoriously hard to draw, especially if, like me, you have not practiced them. I keep meaning to practice them, but I keep procrastinating and putting it off. So this kind of became my hand drawing practice, and it was not ideal, but in my mind, I knew the message and the images that I wanted to portray, and it was a series of 3 pictures, with the first one 2 hands gripping tightly to each other. The second one, the grip is considerably loosened, and in the third picture, it's just an empty hand because the other hand, and seemingly the person behind the hand, has left. The idea was great, the execution, bleh. I went through it. I drew hands, maybe 500 million hands, and I hated every single one of them, every single time. But then I reached a point where I thought, you know what, they will do, we need to move on. So then I inked the hands, and the middle picture, when I inked it, it looks awful. So then I decided I was gonna patch it up, and the paper I chose to patch it up with, of course, was cream and not white, so that doesn't match. But it's okay, we managed to get something out of it that I don't entirely hate. I don't love it, but it will do.
To be brought into this place, you wanna love me? Well then baby, have a taste. All the highs and the lows, no you'll never be the same. I don't really wanna hurt you, but I can't control the pain. If you're sticking by my side, maybe we could be okay. Okay, maybe you could be the change I need today. I promise that I've never felt this way. I really hope that you will choose to stay through all.
The second Peyton Sawyer piece that I decided to recreate is the album cover for the breast cancer benefit album and concert that Peyton ends up producing. I believe it was called Friends with Benefits, but I may be wrong on that, don't quote me on that. So for this album cover, actually I should give you the context of this image, and I also just realised that this video is full of spoilers for anyone who has never watched One Tree Hill and intends to watch One Tree Hill, so I'm sorry about that. Hopefully everyone watching this video has seen the show or is familiar enough with the show that these aren't spoilers and they don't ruin the entire show for you. But also it's been 15 years since it first came out, so yeah. So this picture is drawn after Peyton's biological mum, who she learns about at the end of season 2 and then forms a relationship with in season 3, dies. So Hilary talks a lot in the podcast about the fact that Peyton Sawyer has not one but 2 dead mums. One died in a car accident and one dies of breast cancer, so she has quite the tragic life, poor Peyton. And so after Ellie, Peyton's biological mum, dies, Peyton and her friends produce a benefit album to raise money for breast cancer. And I'm just guessing it's breast cancer because of the pink ribbon on the goth girl's arm, but I don't really remember, and we haven't gotten that far in the rewatch yet. So initially I was going to be a bit more experimental with the pose that Goth Girl was in, and I tried a few different poses, but they just didn't work for me. So then I decided I was going to recreate her in the same pose that Helen Ward chose when she drew her the first time. But instead of drawing her as Peyton, I drew her as maybe myself, but really just a black goth girl. And when it came to colouring this one in, it was easier because I was just following the reference and following the lighting choices that were made in the original. But I did struggle initially because there is so much black in this piece. Peyton's style tends to be all in grayscale and uses a lot of blacks and then whites are used for the highlights. It utilises negative space. So you have to be very careful and particular about where you place the colour, and that's not something I'm used to. So I found that difficult, and I thought that if I put black alcohol marker over my black line art, you wouldn't be able to see the line art anymore. But shortly after beginning my colouring, I realised that the pen and the marker work together so that you can put black alcohol marker over it and you can still see the line art. So that made life a lot easier for me. I just coloured over everything, and then I came back with my white Posca pen and my white gel pen and added the highlights and the detailing in that way, and that was a lot easier and a lot more fun. And then these little hearts in flames, they become somewhat of a motif for Peyton. I think the first time she draws them is when she, Brooke and Lucas are entangled in this love triangle and everyone ends up being hurt, so it's like a symbol of showing that everyone's hearts have gone up in flames. And it also ends up being the logo for Clothes Over Bros, the fashion company that Brooke Davis starts. So yeah, this motif features a lot in the show.
If you're patient and soon, it can all be worth it. All the searching, pain is never really permanent, but damn it hurts, man. I could feel all of the turbulence and it's concerning. I've been searching for a purpose, I hope it's worth it. This society is really trying me. Ain't no hide and seek, I hide to be far from anxiety. I need my space, I need my privacy. I need some silence, please, you're all too loud. You don't speak quietly, opinions violently thrown across every surface. It makes me nervous, it's the world honestly burning. That's all I'm learning, hope that we can make a turn and start reversing. All our minds and put the work in, we got some work, man. I can hear the demons call when they do what they do. And now I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. I just gotta get through, I just gotta get through. Cause I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. I just gotta gotta get through this. Life is a nuisance, tie up some loose ends. I try to be human, find a solution, my evolution. A place like this, it didn't exist, we made it like this. So you can go pick the bad or the good, got a glass halfway. I know, it's easier to hide than just to lay low. Not everyone in life has got a halo. I'm standing in the red inside a payphone. Just wanna break, no, I'm not gonna give in. Take a last shot, Michael J. Win. No, I'm not a robot, I'm in my own skin. Never get lost when thoughts pull you in. I miss the old you, we died with a purpose. All the energy around me felt nervous. Scared I would pop off fast to the surface. Had to cut it off before you made me worthless. Torn apart, I've been torn and scarred. I had a given art, but now I'm thinking smart. I'm keeping up my guard, I'm hiding every card. A royal flush of love, you never know what's hard. With a back to the mat, gonna see where I'm at. I'ma fight like I'm mad, I'ma be something that they can never be me. Nice try, but they'll see I achieve everything while they stay salty.
And then the last piece I chose to draw, I titled Going, Going, Gone. So this piece is again from season 1, and the context behind it is that Peyton's dad, he works on an oil rig, I think, or on multiple oil rigs, but basically he has a job where he travels a lot and is in the middle of the ocean a lot. He's portrayed as a good father, but he's definitely an absent father. Peyton basically essentially lives by herself and raises herself, and in this episode her dad comes back to visit and she's acting very brave and like she's all cool with the situation, but she draws this piece and submits it to Thud magazine, which is the magazine that publishes her artwork. The piece is of Peyton on a dock watching a ship leave. It's a series of 4 images and they're identical except that the versions of Peyton on the dock, they start as a young girl and progressively get older and older. Lucas ends up showing this artwork to Peyton's dad and lets him know that Peyton is not as cool as she seems about him never being home. So then Peyton's dad decides that he's going to start taking jobs closer to home and be around more, and this lasts for about 3 episodes and then we never see him again. He doesn't even come back for Peyton's wedding, so that was weird. I guess they just didn't follow through with that storyline. But what I decided to do was I took this idea, but instead of having it as a dad who is constantly leaving, I decided to portray a dad who stops coming back. So my dad is estranged from me, I guess. I have an absentee father. He left our family home for good when I was about 8, I think. I don't know the exact day or year or age I was, because it was a gradual thing. It wasn't this big dramatic thing, it just kind of happened gradually. All I know is that one day he went out for cigarettes and never came back, and that's a joke. He didn't smoke, but one day he did leave for work and not come back. If there were any goodbyes, I don't remember them. So he's a doctor and he would do what we call locum work in England. So he would often work away from home, and sometimes he would be gone for weeks at a time, sometimes it would just be a weekend, sometimes it'd be months at a time, I think. But he frequently came back, and then gradually he just stopped coming back and he moved to England. He moved to Nigeria to restart his life, and a lot of things went on between that, but that's what happened. And so eventually he and my mum separated. It was a whole thing. And so my version of this picture, I drew a young girl, I guess myself, who is progressively getting older, and a dad and she's standing in the hallway of a home, and her dad keeps coming back, but his reception in each picture becomes progressively less enthusiastic, until in the last picture the young woman at this point is in front of the front door and it isn't opening because nobody's coming home. I swear I'm a closet emo. Maybe in another life with different circumstances and better music, I may have been a full-blown emo. I enjoyed drawing this one the most because I think being able to add my own story to it made this one feel like it's mine and not so much like a recreation of Peyton's art. So there you have it, my art inspired by Peyton Sawyer's artwork. It was really fun taking a break from doing all my exercises and trying to work on my technical abilities and actually drawing art that has a story behind it and hopefully some meaning behind it too. And if you want to join in and do your own Peyton Sawyer inspired artwork, I created a Pinterest board with as many Peyton Sawyer art pieces as I could find, and that is linked in the description below. And also, if you make any artwork, please share it on YouTube or Instagram and tag me. All my links are in the description below, and use the hashtag inspired by Peyton Sawyer. And yeah, I look forward to seeing your creations. As always, thank you so much for watching. Have a good day, good evening, or good night. Goodbye.